Okay, so before today's video begins, I just want to make you aware that there are links in the description to the Stop Asian Hate movement, because we do need to raise awareness of the matters that are happening within America right now and that are affecting Asian Americans. So I'd greatly appreciate if you go check that out, and also a directory by Sharp Shalaya detailing some Asian books that are coming out and also Asian content creators. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the brand new intro. Hey besties, it's Joel, and today I'm going to be going over the 14 books that I've read so far this year. It's been a while since I've uploaded, and I deeply apologise for that. I've been working on my dissertation for the past few weeks, and so I needed a bit of time for myself to kind of rest, recharge, but also get that dissertation done. And whilst it's still not done, I'm definitely far better off than I would have been if I continued creating content and kind of stressing myself out a bit more than I already was. So I thank you for your patience, and I'm really excited to be back. It's definitely been a really cool past few weeks, and I've read some amazing books so far this year, and although I haven't done a single wrap-up this year, I thought why not just do one massive quarterly wrap-up, because I don't know, I just feel like the chaos from this will just multiply, and me trying to figure out what these books are about like 2 months after I've read them. Amazing. And before we get into it, if you've yet to check out my Twitter nor my Instagram, I would highly recommend you go do that, because I post some extra bookish content that you're not gonna see here. Okay, so the very first book that I had read this year was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, I gave it 3 stars, and because of that, a lot of people thought I didn't like the book, when in fact I actually did. I quite enjoyed this book. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue follows Addie, who basically makes a Faustian bargain with a devil-like figure and gains immortality at the expense that when someone like turns away from her or goes out of her field of vision, they'll forget who she is. And so she has to navigate history with this immortality whilst also not being remembered by anyone, until one day she is remembered by one person and everything changes. And so it was a really, really great novel to read from Addie's perspective, kind of seeing how she's being tortured by the fact that no one is remembering her, and how she seeks to make her impact on history by influencing others. And it's kind of where my criticism comes in with this novel, because for a novel that seeks to teach people that they want to be remembered and that the importance of life, the lack of like people of color in this novel was something that I did pick up on. It felt very Eurocentric to me, purely because of where Addie explored throughout history, and people did raise some very valid critiques about kind of how Addie would like go to these other countries when she can't like get a boat, a plane and stuff. And that is valid, but also with the influences of colonialism, other cultures have seeped into Eurocentric countries such as the US and Britain. Like, you literally can see other cultures within Britain and the US. So it felt a bit weird for Addie not to be exposed to other cultures throughout the entire book. There was also one comment on Goodreads that said I couldn't actually raise this point without acknowledging all prejudices in history, and I just found that to be a really, really bad point, because like, why do I, as a black person, have to raise the entirety of world history for my point to be valid? Anyway, whilst I found this book lyrical and beautiful and amazing, and like the lessons from this book were quite something, I just felt like it wasn't something that was written for me per se, or like a person of color, because of how white this novel was. We also read this for the Late Night Book Club, and you can check out the live show on Noelle's channel, which I'll link down below. We definitely had a really good discussion on there as well. We also talked about like Henry versus Luke and kind of just all of our feelings about this, and it was definitely a really good conversation. The next book that I then read was If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Karamura, and this one basically follows a man who is about to die, but he's visited by death, and death makes him a deal saying that if he makes one thing disappear from the world, he basically gets an extra day of life. And so he makes like a variety of things disappear, like mobile phones and etc, etc, and then one day maybe cats might disappear. And this was definitely an insightful novel, because I think a theme with all the books I'm reading this year is life and death, because I don't know, I'm just really intrigued by the subject, and I just think that it's such like a weird thing to discuss the finality of life. And this book definitely brought things into perspective, because it's kind of what you're willing to sacrifice in order to live, and how selfish you can be in order to live. It was definitely interesting, and the characters were quite well developed. I think that the main character's relationship with the cat was also very poignant. Yeah, it was just really good, and Death was hilarious. Death wearing like a Hawaiian shirt beautiful. I was fully obsessed. It was just a really great like short novel, and I'm definitely interested in more of Genki Karamura's work because the way that he writes is just so like upfront and honest, and it's just great, and I really like that. The next book that I then read was Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is the first book in the Vampire Academy series, and I read this as part of St. Vademir's read-along, which I partook in the live show of, which I'll leave again in the description down below. This basically follows Lissa and Rose, who are like Vampire de Hampire, like best friends, and Rose basically has to protect Lissa from all of the dangers in the world, and they tried to run away from St. Vladimir's academy. However, they are found and are brought back, and the conspiracies within the academy begin to unfold. And this was definitely like a really fun read, but also it definitely like reeks of that like old YA way. But what I will say is that the extent of like mental health representation that we do get in this novel is actually unseen for like the majority of like older YA, and I'm really glad that it was in here. And I'm definitely interested in reading the rest of the series because I watched the Vampire Academy film like a few months back, and everyone was like, no, the books are better, you need to read the book. I haven't been able to read like the second, third, or fourth one yet because I've been busy with my dissertation, but I'm hoping to like binge the rest of the series in time for when the read-long crew go and start Bloodlines, so we'll see what happens there. But for now, I really did like this, and I'm really intrigued to see what happens next. The next book that we then have is a middle grade novel, and probably one of my favourite books I've read so far this year, and it is Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean. And it was illustrated, this beautiful cover was illustrated by Sandhya Prabhat. Like, look at this. Look at how beautiful that is. And the proof copy as well is just simply stunning. Like, this is the most gorgeous middle grade proof I've ever received. Like, this basically follows Archie, who discovers one day that his father is gay, and like that's the reason why his mum and dad have been fighting. And it was an emotional read. Like, this is a middle grade novel, and I was bawling my eyes out. Like, it was such a, like, really cute, warming novel about, like, acceptance and kind of what happens when you have a gay parent and how nothing really changes. And Archie's voice was just so innocent and so sweet, and the way that he had, like, a massive support group around. Oh my god, this book was amazing. I want to reread this again now because of just how amazing this was. And I don't know, I came away from this book feeling so warm after it and just feeling so, like, touched by this book. The lessons that young kids are going to get from this novel, that like nothing really changes if your friend is gay or lesbian or bi, or even if they decide to change their gender or the way that they represent themselves, and nothing really changes. They're still the same person inside, and that is what counts. This book is amazing. Like, please go pick it up. Like, if you need a book to buy yourself, if you're looking for a middle grade, or even like a young friend or relative, Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow cuts it because it's just beautiful. Then we get on to the January pick for Late Night Book Club, which was The Shining by Stephen King. And so this one basically follows Danny and his family. His father takes a job at the Overlook Hotel, and so they go there for the winter, and Danny basically has a psychic power called the Shine, which means he can like sense things about people and like about the world around him, and he's got a very strong shine. And so when he goes to the hotel, he's warned that the hotel is beginning to shine as well, and things begin to happen which kind of take a turn for the worst. And as the snow begins to avalanche and trap them, things begin to happen. And this was a ride. This is my first ever Stephen King novel, and he's definitely interesting. I personally see a lot of problems with Stephen King's writing because of like his overuse of the N-word and the way that he writes women, but I definitely still wanted to read Stephen King because as someone who wants to eventually write some horror myself, I definitely wanted to like see what the hype was about with Stephen King. And I can definitely see where a lot of people got the hype from, because his horror is a lot of like psychological, and like it settles in like very slowly, but then like it gets to you eventually. It's very slow built, and like there are like moments of like horror, like typical horror, but like it's more so slow and psychological, and it's what I really liked about it. However, again, the way that he writes women and the way that he like overuses the N-word and writes like black people, I almost knocked my tea over. No! I just wasn't a massive fan of it. But would I read another Stephen King novel? Probably. I am interested in Misery, purely because it's like the premise of like an author being trapped. I don't know as a writer why I want to read that, but like, overall, I had a lot of fun with The Shining. I think it's like, I really want to watch the film. I think Noelle was saying something in the live show about the film and like the way that it's not like the best representation of this book. Then we get onto the romance reads that I did for my romance reading vlog, and oh, first we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, which releases on June 1st, I believe, 2021. Set that in your calendar. This basically follows August, who moves to New York City because she believes magic is dead. She is like, romance is dead, there is no such thing as love, there is no such thing as coincidence. But then she is saved on a train by Jane. Jane is like this punk rock chick with a biker jacket, and she's amazing. She is so stunning. However, there's just a small issue with Jane in the fact that she has been displaced from the 70s and has been riding a train for like 30, 40 odd years and has now come to the realization that something may be amiss with the fact that August has an iPhone. And so August begins to help Jane come to the realization that she has been displaced from time and also seeks to help her return to the time that she was from. And from there, August has to confront her past in order to help her future. And so it's really intriguing. It's really exciting. And this book just, oh, it's amazing. Like, if you liked Red, White, and Royal Blue, you will love One Last Stop. Casey McQuiston has done it again. Like, their writing is amazing. Their prose, stunning. The romance is amazing. And I just think that there is so much emotion in this. There's so many layers to this. It's like an onion. It's like an onion. But I just find that, like, the almost found family aspect of this novel was amazing as well. We had a small cast of characters in this novel, like a small core cast, and it worked really well. And I just think that I cannot wait to see what Casey McQuiston writes next. I kind of want Casey to like send me whatever they're working on before I get the arc of it, because, you know, I really want it. I want it. I want it. It's just the sapphicness of this as well. Like, it's so unapologetically sapphic, and it's amazing. It's so amazing. Plus, we have a Jamaican drag queen. We have a Jamaican drag queen. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, you're gonna need this, because I think this is gonna be like one of the hit romances of the summer, if not the hit romance of the summer. And also a quick shout out to the designer of this fabulous cover, Anna Goroy. It's amazing, and I just think it encapsulates the novel so well. Plus, is it me, or is like the cover kind of like the lesbian flag colors as well? And so next then we move on to Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson. The cover was designed by Alex Cabal, and the jacket design was done by Jeanette Levy. And this book basically follows Nala, who is not as prone to activism as her friends are. And so when Ty comes into the picture, Nala is obsessed with him. However, he is very much into the activism scene, like doing stuff for his community and trying to better it as he sees fit. And so Nala decides to tell a few little white lies in order to get closer to Ty, and the lies become bigger and bigger and bigger, as they typically do. And Nala doesn't know what to do. However, love is hard, but throughout this she'll find that self-love is revolutionary. And so this novel was great. I think I really like delved deep into the impact of lies and how things weave out of control, but also the importance of doing things for your community or just doing things for other people. However, I did have a few issues with the girl on girl hate that was throughout this novel, and just the way that like Nala would make fun of the people that were trying to better her community. Like, it just didn't, as someone who is Gen Z, I just don't know whether other Gen Zers would do that nowadays. And also I just found near the end, like when the lies get exposed, because obviously they do, I just found that it was kind of wrapped up fairly quickly just so that we could further the plot more. It felt like Nala's sudden change was a bit rushed. I just found the ending to be a bit rushed. But overall, it was a very good novel, and I still do recommend it if you're looking for like a really good book on like self-love and just learning what it is to become part of your community and becoming part of a family, knowing what you want to be and finding out what you want to be. Because I did cry at the end of this book, to be fair. Like, it was quite impactful, and just seeing like a Jamaican American protagonist once again was astounding. And so I'm really glad I read this. The next book that I then read was Meet Cute Club by Jack Harbin, and I did enjoy this book. So this basically follows Jordan, who runs a book club called the Meet Cute Club, and it's basically running down. People are leaving and people are just not interested anymore. However, an employee at the local bookstore that he goes to, Rex, also makes fun of him for all of the books that he chooses to read. And so Jordan invites Rex to the book club, being like, you know, these aren't grandma reads, you should come along. And so Rex comes along, he decides to join the club, and together they both start to work together to bring the club back to fruition. And what whilst they do that, they also begin to fall in love. I liked this book. I liked it for what it was. I think that it was like nice, quick romance. However, I also have a problem with it being a quick romance because I feel like we didn't really have enough time to go into depth into like what their connection was and how their connection is brought together. Like, I've seen quick romances done well, like with This Is How You Lose the Time War, which also embedded like a sci-fi plot, but the small weaving of like a romance was chef's kiss. I think that with this, it just felt a bit rushed in a sense. I did like the novel for what it was, and I do think like the writing was also really good. I just found the plot was a bit like at times. Like, I wasn't really a massive fan of it. However, I did enjoy the reading experience. Like I think I mentioned in my vlog, yeah, I would still read other books by Jack Harben as well, because I think that they are an amazing author and I really would love to just see other romances from them. And then next, I read You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, and the cover design and lettering was done by Emily Cordell, and I almost gave up on this book. I think I was like almost 100 pages in, and I was just like, why the heck are these people still together? Why are they doing these arguments, snide comebacks at one another, acting like almost kids to one another? I was just like, it's just an unhealthy relationship. However, after the 100-page mark, someone pointed out on Twitter the exact moment in which we both, like me and that person, had changed our minds about this novel, and it's amazing. Because I was like, yes, that is the exact moment. It just becomes like a comedy after that. Like, I think this novel is what I would describe as like a rom-com, because like I would love to see this adapted into a TV show or into a film, because I think this would make an amazing adaptation. Like, oh, who would I cast? Oh god, I don't know who I'd cast. I just realized Anne Hathaway would be amazing in this adaptation. Like, give it to me right now. But anyway, after the 100-page mark, it just gets so much better, and I think the relationship between Naomi and Nicholas has definitely developed more, and I think that, it just has some sense of flavor in there, and I just think that the way that they tag team together to take on a much bigger enemy, like, it's just amazing. And this is definitely what I would define as enemies to lovers, like a broken relationship, and they're taking it on one another, and then they start to communicate and things get better. This is the thing. This novel is all about miscommunication and kind of the dangers of that, and the way that Naomi and Nicholas didn't really communicate through the relationship, always expecting the other person to know what they were meaning. It's definitely something I've learned as well in like my previous experiences with my past relationships. The communication is key, and whilst I'm not always the best at communication, it's definitely something I want to get better at. I've seen that Twice Shy by Sarah Hogel's coming out soon, and like, I'm also excited for that. I think my romance friends on Twitter have like raved about it and said it's amazing, and I curate my Twitter feed so succinctly that like, if a romance person on my, like Syl from the Book Voyagers, if you need a good romance, Syl is your person. Syl is the queen of romance. Like, she literally just like recommends the best romances, and like not one of Syl's recommendations has failed me, not one. So I'm really excited for Twice Shy, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. Okay, and the next book that I then read was Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and this one was interesting to say the least. This follows Luke, who's basically in and out of the public eye because his father is in and out of rehab, and now he wants to make a comeback. And Luke is very much like, I want to stay away from you. However, one compromising photo puts him back into the spotlight. He's then trying to clean up his image, and so he thinks dating the right guy will do that, and so enters Oliver Blackwood. And whilst they do hit off on a rocky start, eventually both of them do slowly come together. This was an okay novel, I will say that. Like, I think that the writing was definitely strong sometimes. I think this novel ran on for a little bit too long, in my personal taste, and I think that some of the things that were said in this novel weren't the best. There's one part where one of the bosses calls Luke the wrong type of gay, and then just decides not to stand up for himself and like call out the homophobia. Like, there's moments in this book which are blatant, like almost microaggressive remarks to homosexual people, and no one calls the people out on it and just accepts it. Doesn't sit right for me. There's also a bit at the end where like, I think it's either Oliver or Luke tells the other one that they think they have an eating disorder, and then they question it, and he's like, yeah, you may need to get that checked out, and then it's never heard of again. Like, it's literally right at the end of the novel as well. Like, they bring up this massive thing and they brush it under the rug. I'm just like, especially if like something like that big of a topic being swept under the rug, as almost if it was like meant as like a joke almost. Like, it just didn't sit right with me, especially with like the third act that we get in this book. Like, it happened so quickly, like everything happened really quickly in like the last 25% that I had whiplash from the last 25%, because we were like and I was just like, excuse me. The next book that I then read was Remote Control by Nnendi Okorafor, and I'm really excited as well because I'm getting to write an essay about Binti and the space between worlds for an Other Worlds and Fantasy Fiction module I'm doing. So basically this follows Sankofa, whose name means death. And one day she is given this magical ability to enact death on people with a glow. And people are afraid of her, people are scared of her, but she seeks a higher purpose. She needs to seek her purpose in life. And so she travels across the stars trying to find her purpose, and along with her little fox companion. And this book was amazing. Nnendi Okorafor is able, like, I have so much reverence for novella writers who are able to succinctly write like novels with amount of meaning and depth and just symbolism in like a short amount of pages. It's such a beautifully described novel. The plot is so like easily followable, and just the language used is amazing, and the way that we get to see Sankofa's story evolve from when she was Fatima to when she was Sankofa, and it's just amazing. And I do really like how it was unfolding. Do I see a sequel novella in the works? Yes. I do think that like Remote Control has a lot of sequel potential, and I would be amazed if there was a sequel in the works, because I do think that like there's a lot of threads in Remote Control that can be explored further in future installments, and so I would love to see Sankofa navigate her way through the world in a potential sequel. Because also I'm potentially going to be reading Murderbot in like the next few months, and so I would really like to see more sci-fi novellas, because sci-fi is like one of those genres that I don't really advertise that I read a lot, but I've watched a lot of Star Trek and I want to get into Star Wars. I've watched The Mandalorian and I really enjoyed The Mandalorian, but I haven't seen like the other Star Wars films. I'm just really excited to see like other things in the sci-fi novella universe. Like, this is How You Lose the Time Warp. Oh, amazing. Second mention in this video. Okay, so then we go on to the February pick for the Late Night Book Club, and this was hosted on my channel, and that was Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. Now, this one is definitely a heavy YA book. This has quite a few trigger warnings. Luckily, the trigger warnings are stated in the front of the book. This is a heavy book. It's inspired by the case of R. Kelly, but Tiffany D. Jackson explicitly states that this is not about R. Kelly. But this basically follows Enchanted, who wants to be a singer, and so she tries to enter the singing competition. However, she's also scouted by Corey Fields, and Corey Fields like promises her everything in the world and just that her singing career will take off. And then we flash forward in the future. Enchanted wakes up covered in blood. Corey is dead, and all signs point to Enchanted. Did she commit the crime? Or didn't she? This was definitely an interesting story. This was pitched as a thriller, and it's definitely thrilling in a sense that the way that these women, specifically black women, go through when they are in this situation of complete oppression, but also in a power imbalanced relationship. It was definitely hard to read, especially with the emotional manipulation that Enchanted had been placed under, because as someone who was also a victim of emotional abuse, it's something that it takes a lot to undo. It takes a lot to kind of undo the damage that's been done to you, and like it's a lot. But I think that especially with like a lot of the gaslighting that Enchanted have been placed under, it really speaks a testimony to a lot of the things that black women go through when, like, we're seeing it right now actually with a lot of black celebrities on the news where they're like Meg Thee Stallion was shot. Like, black women aren't being believed, being victim blamed. So we need to believe black women first and foremost. We need to ensure that black women are being protected and that they are in safe spaces. Like, trying to blame the victim is never the answer. It is never the answer. But yeah, this was definitely like a multi-layered story, and it was definitely one that definitely needs to be told to a YA audience, because these are things that can happen to them, and these are things that they need to be aware of, the signs and the triggers, just the way that relationships can skew into something potentially manipulative. There were, however, elements of the story that didn't make that much sense, and I think that this could have been done with a little bit of extra editing, but for what it was, it's a good book. it's a really good book. We also get into White Tears, Brown Scars, How White Feminism Portrays Women of Color by Ruby Hamad. Now this one is a really impactful nonfiction novel. This one basically showcases a lot of the reasons why white feminism doesn't work and how white feminism plays into white supremacy and is used to further oppress and subjugate women of color to racism and oppression. Especially with everything that's going on at the moment with Stop Asian Hate and the Black Lives Matter movement. It is inherently important that you pick up and educate yourselves on things that can impact women of color. This book is an example. This book gives really good explanations on the stereotypes that affect different people, like the Jezebel with black women and the Dragon Lady with Asian women. It gives examples and it gives personal anecdotes of the treatment that women of color have received through white feminism, how white women have weaponized their tears against women of color. It's such an amazing, like this book just taught me so much about how interlayered white supremacy can be in the feminist movement, and that, again, I've always stood by the fact that if your activism is not intersectional, it is not activism. You are literally just fighting just for yourself. And I think that if we don't start fighting for one another, we will never get anywhere. We will never get anywhere, because if we're fighting amongst ourselves, then white people win. White supremacy will win. So we need to educate ourselves and each other about the things that are affecting each other in order to come together in order to stop it, because otherwise we're just going to be in the same place. We're literally going to be in the same place as we were yesterday and the day after and the day after. Wow, I'm getting really passionate in this video. I'm getting really wow. Like, we need to do more. We literally need to do more. And then we get into the final book that I read in this past quarter, and that is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. So Girl, Woman, Other basically follows 12 very different black British characters throughout different generations, and it showcases their life through their experiences within the UK, experiencing racism, homophobia, sometimes even abuse. And I had a whole conversation with this with Chanel and Brie over on Chanel's channel for the Crusty Book Club, as I was a guest host, so I'll have that linked in the description down below. Oh my god, this book was emotional. It was amazing. It really distilled the black British experience. I cried like 3 times throughout this. Like, it was definitely something that I resonated with a lot as a black British person. It was something that really spoke to me and really showed me kind of the differences between the different generations and what they went through, and kind of how our generation is better than the previous ones, but we still have a lot more work to do now. I don't know, it just impacted me in such a way that it was so beautiful, and I'm really excited for Bernardine Evaristo's next book, because I think it comes out in like October or November this year, and I think it's a non-fiction book, so I'm really intrigued by it. Bernardine Evaristo is just such an amazing writer. Like, the writing style does take a bit to get used to, but once you're used to it, oh, the book just opens up for you. The book literally just invites you in, and you're literally like up at like 3 a.m. in the middle of the night reading this book and then crying over like one of the littlest things that happens, and then you realize, oh shit, this is my experience. This is how I feel. Like, there was just certain characters that literally felt how I felt, and I felt so vindicated. I felt so represented. It was amazing. I loved this book. It's definitely one that I will, again, reread and recommend for the years to come. I think it's definitely one of those evergreen novels that also should be put on the school's curriculum. Like, this novel should be studied in like a GCSE or A-level class, because the government right now are actually like a piece of shit and like decide that the UK is a model for racism. Like, shut up. And I highly recommend you go check out the discussion that I had with Chanel and Brie, because I go into a lot more detail of my thoughts and also my past experiences with racism. I've been able to recap 14 books in like 40-ish minutes. I'm so excited to be back. So if you do have any ideas for videos that you would like to see, let me know in the comment section down below. Maybe like if there's any particular celebrities' favorite books that you want me to read. I know that's very trendy at the moment. If there's any like wacky or out of this world ideas that you want, let me know. That is everything for today's video. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. This week's shout out thanks goes out to Jen's Bookshelf, who created an entire video reading my favorite books, and I haven't watched it yet because I've been waiting like for the weekend to watch it, because that's when I do most of my booktube watching. But like, the fact that someone created a video reading my favorite books, like, it just warms my heart and actually touches me. And like, and just looking at Jen's channel, they seem to do like a lot of really cool vlogs, and so I'll have their channel linked in the description down below so that you can go check them out. I'll also have links to my favorite Asian booktubers and bookstagrammers and also bloggers in the description down below so that you can go support them. This is also a reminder to go check out these Stop Asian Hate resources in the description down below, because we need to do more and we need to raise awareness of this issue and ensure that it's not silenced and it doesn't go away, because we need to help. I'll also leave all my social media links in the description down below so that you can go check me out on any other social media platforms in case you should wish to. And so yeah, I guess until the next video, bye besties.